Hello there. What's up, Chef Pete, Dragon Rose, Lunging Mule, Herschel, Roberts, Joey, Sacha, and James? I see you on Discord. Here we go. Trouble Minds start now. I'll get everybody when we circle back around. Dragon Rose listening from Rachel, Nevada, right outside of Area 51. My bunker's out there. Stop by and say hi. Here we go.
I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but it clear to be fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to do anything.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
So you said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. That's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1 0 1 1 1 0 1 1 6 3 2 9 7.
Media doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Well, good evening, and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. Oops, Kick. Yeah, Kick. Now Kick. Buttons. And we're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as, of course, we get weird. But you notice it doesn't take too much to get weird these days. We live in a post-truth world, as I've liked to say. And not only that, it seems as if all of the institutions of old, at least in the mind's eye, are breaking down. And what I mean by that is in the old days, you used to be able to say, James there believes in ghosts. We can write him off. He's just a quack. No offense, James, just using you as an example of all of us, meaning specifically that lots of people have seen lots of non-ordinary things in their lives, more than has really ever been counted or quantified. And that becomes the bizarre part about this, because if you're looking at the science and some of the studies that have been coming out recently, and we talk about them when I see them, there's a lot of stuff happening where there's people seeing things or experiencing things that are just outside the norm constantly and continually. And here's where we'll start. So this is from shout out Chrissy Newton on I'll see if I can find her social media on there. She's in the UFO space, has been. I've seen her on some podcast days ago, because I don't have time really to go watch and listen to a bunch of other stuff. But this is from Chrissy Newton, written on the debrief.org. And the headline is this: new research suggests extraordinary experiences are more common and more meaningful than expected. Now, that's really the point, is when you look at this stuff and the stuff that we've always talked about as part of Troubled Minds, and, these experiencers, we talk about the experiencer and how they really, really get left behind in the sense of nobody believes them. they think that, people could just write them off as, oh, such and such believes in ghosts or believes in aliens or whatever, and that's it, and they write it off. And in the old days, there was quite a bit of a difference there, and that they would, sort of quantify them as, or count them as ancestral spirits, or count them as, some celestial channel, or, so just something from somewhere else. And it was normal because most everybody experienced it one way or another. Now, this is hugely fascinating because I was kind of poking through the study here, and it is very, very interesting that they did a study of 5,000 people. Actually, I'll read. To do it justice, I'll read it a little bit from again Chrissy Newton's article. Please look. The people that inspired these shows and these ideas and are out there poking around in this space of trying to understand what it means to be human and these anomalous experiences. Please follow them. Please go read their articles, and all the links will always be in the description. So you know what to do. Go give Chrissy Newton here some love and go read this article. I'll read you just a little bit of it, and then we'll jump into some other stuff because this is super weird. So the study starts here. So the researchers examined how thousands of people interpret unusual experiences. For example, one person might view an out-of-body or near-death experience as evidence of a spiritual awakening. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Just checking my volume here. Why is that broken? One moment, please. Just a second. All right, that should be good to test 1, 2. All right, sorry, just got to make sure everything's. For some reason, I'm not spiking out the meter, which is weird. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. All right, here we go. Sorry to interrupt myself. For example, one person might view an out-of-body or near-death experience as evidence of a spiritual awakening, while other might interpret the same event as a neurological phenomenon or the result of normal brain chemistry. And this is something that's been talked about for a very long time. The article goes on. Similarly, hearing voices may be regarded as a symptom of mental illness in some cultures, while others interpret it as a spiritual or supernatural experience. Now, I don't mean to twist and conflate and demean true, actual mental illness. Okay, if you're legitimately hearing voices and you should see a doctor, please see a doctor. This is not trying to give you some shamanic version or vision of what you should do instead. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. See a doctor, please. At least get looked at, get treated. Just all the disclaimers apply there. I'm not trying to say this substitutes true, actual medical help. Okay, so if you need it, please do get it. Just want to point that out. So the study argues that both perspectives can be valid depending on the individual's cultural and personal framework. And that's the wild part, right? So, quote, experiences like sensing a presence, having a vision, or feeling as though you are observing yourself from outside your own body are far more common in the general population than clinical diagnosis rates would suggest, Fisher said in a statement. Continue, quote, we observed that most people in our sample of over 5,000 participants who report them are not unwell, and most describe them as neutral or positive, both at the time they occur and also when looking back and reflecting on that experience. And so they did this questionnaire, 5,117 individuals representing the general population. And it turns out that over 50% said it was a positive experience. But then there was a smaller subset of people that said it was terrifying. It was something that really shook them to their core, and another that said it was more sort of a neutral or negative experience, but not like a terrifying nightmare. But in any case, you see what I'm saying here. There's something going on, and many, many people have experienced these sorts of things. This entity, this idea of a something, I don't know, tapping you on the shoulder that's not there, right? This type of stuff. And do read the write-up tonight. It is very good. I'll read you the first paragraph. It does not come at midnight. That is the first thing the stories get wrong. It comes at 2 p.m. while you are rinsing a glass at the sink. The light flat and unremarkable. The house quiet in the way houses go quiet when everyone else is out. You are awake. You are alert. You are, by every measure that matters, fine. And then the back of your neck knows something your eyes have not confirmed. That the room behind you is no longer empty. That a person is standing just past the edge of your vision. Close, patient, and entirely certain of itself. You turn. Nothing is there. The certainty does not care that nothing is there. It stays. And that's the point. Everybody has had this sensation that you're being watched. And again, it doesn't come at midnight, as I'm suggesting here. I'm calling this tonight. It doesn't wait for midnight, wide awake and not alone. And so the question really becomes not as just this particular thing. Everybody has the sensation of being watched. We've talked about Rupert Sheldrake, the morphic resonance, and that sensation of being, kind of being stalked as prey in the wild. We have this bizarre sixth or seventh or eighth or 10th sense that really tunes into this, I don't know, field. Maybe you're hearing things imperceptibly that you wouldn't recognize otherwise. I don't know. There's a whole lot of science that's gone into this, and nobody's truly figured it out. And it does seem very woo, very unscientific. And so the question really becomes, what is this and what the hell's going on? And it doesn't have to be, at 3:33 a.m. when this goes down. This happens in broad daylight with people that are alone a lot of times, but sometimes not. So what the hell's actually going on? And I'll get more into this study because it's highly fascinating. They did an entire inventory of what these things are, and sort of a huge questionnaire of, again, over 5,000 people. And it was common. It was, they expected a lot of them to say, no, I've never experienced this. But instead, the vast majority of them had experienced something that they couldn't explain. And many of them had a positive experience with it. So what do we know about this? What do you know about this? And of course, the question really becomes, how weird does this get? That's the question tonight. And as the question is just about every night when we talk about these wild ideas. We are taking your calls tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-857-6939. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. But in the meantime, be right back. More Troubled Minds in just one moment. Be right back. We got a quick word from our sponsor. In this case, it is going to be the Stoic Mindset, because in 2026, you can never have too much stoicism afoot. So be right back. More Troubled Minds in just 1 second, or exactly 1 minute, actually. The Stoic Minute. Be right back. Feeling stressed? Overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset, and let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so that's where we start. Now this is a weird one. This is, once again, does it surprise you that when they did this survey of over 5,000 people, that the vast majority of them have experienced something they couldn't explain? Now, to us, right, we talk about this stuff, we think about this stuff all the time, and in the intro of the show, it says you're here for a reason. And that was really what was on my mind when I put that track together so many years ago, was that you've experienced something, you've seen something has touched you some way, whether it's going to be your soul, your heart, your mind, or just kind of spooked you to your core, or some mix of all of the above. And so suddenly, what does any of that mean? And in this case, we're talking 5,000 people are saying, yeah, definitely. Something happened, and I don't know what it is, but over 50% of them said it was a positive experience. So what the hell is actually going on? And the weird thing is, we'll get into more of this, but it seems like it's cultural. Like a lot of the American people that took the survey had more of a, when they heard a voice, for instance, it was like yelling, it was angry, it was mad about something. Almost as if like the fractured culture was kind of screaming in their ear somehow, or screaming into their mind space directly. And in some of these other cultures, they didn't hear that at all. They heard something more soothing, more calming, more akin to what an ancestral spirit might be doing, kind of guiding you through the day or giving you, the wisdom of the ancients. And so, I don't know, this really kind of starts to look like not just sociology, not just sort of the neuroscience of our brain, but also maybe this larger context of the human space of everything, of all the noosphere that we always talk about, the ideas and the zeitgeist and all the rest of this stuff. And look, I don't know these answers, and so this is a good time to drop the disclaimers. There's no truth to be found here. Okay, we're looking at these ideas, sort of up the if cliff, as I like to call it. And if you're here for truth, you're in the wrong place. That's it. There's no truth here. It's just looking at possibilities and asking the question of what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So let's consider it. Let's think about it, and let's talk about it. It's as simple as that. So the ideas play. And so let's hear your ideas. If you want to be part of the conversation, you know what to do. 702-857-6939, or you can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. It is a Discord's a chat client, a voice client. It is completely free, and pop on in and say hi. Come meet the amazing people that make this show go, not just me. There's so many others, including, of course, the glue of the show, Salcedo Paranormal, James in Michigan. What's up, my man? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. I'll adjust the volume because everything wobbles every single show a little bit, but I got you. Welcome. Thank you for sitting in here with me as usual. You were the man. What do you got? There's a ton of stuff here. I know you read both of those articles, and there's so much there. You can start wherever you like, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic. Just in that, I'm not surprised in the way that these 5,000 and some people claim to have an experience. Now, what I would love to see is research into people that have multiple experiences somehow going forward. I don't know how that work. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that would be set up, but it just makes me wonder how many of these people, and maybe it's included, but somewhat buried in the research that I don't know, but how many of these people have had not just the one experience, but two or more. I think that'd be a fascinating sort of data point in all this, but it's not surprising to me just because, as I say, whenever these things come up, for what I do for my podcast, Salcedo Paranormal, my podcast, and also Jen the Arcane Observer, she's part of the podcast too. But one of the things I do for it is I go online and I find posts from people online about their experiences, and I can tell you there are at least 30 to 40 to 50 new posts almost every day from people having experiences in multiple places online. They don't just post in one place, and it's not the same people. And to me, that's fascinating because whatever it is, that's a lot of people claiming to have experiences over time and over many years, because some of these posts are talking, they're adults saying, I had this experience when I was a kid. But one of the other things that I've noticed happens sometimes, and I find in some of these posts, is people starting or ending, or sometimes both, with a basic sentence or statement or question of, am I going crazy? And then they'll talk about the experience. And they'll write in a perfectly rational manner, as far as anyone can tell. And I highly doubt they're crazy just based on what they talk about. But anyway, just a little brief glimpse into what I do and how it relates to this as well.
Yeah, and that becomes a thing, right? So 50 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever, we were supposed to just write you off as crazy. You heard some voices, or you sensed a presence that wasn't there, and you turned around and it was gone. But you couldn't see it, but you still knew it was there. And so, like, again, and the cool thing about this is it is 5,117 people that were part of this study, and it was a whole bunch of different experiences. It wasn't one singular thing. It wasn't, did you experience a ghost, or did you hear voices? It was sort of this, they have this fantastic inventory of all of these things that if you kind of click through it, you'll see that they went through and did like real science. I mean, they're talking about, felt something touch you, saw faces, and then took the thing, are you religious? Are you not? This whole bit, and kind of broke it down. And this is what science does when you start to ask people these questions and get honest answers in these paranormal type spaces. This is good. We need to do more of this, because I'm telling you what, and you guys probably already know this, that the more this type of stuff happens, the more we're probably not going to be shocked as this group. But in the larger context of society, I think society is going to be shocked that most people have experienced things like this. And some things you can just write off as a trick of the mind. Okay. Always, you got to discernment is key for everything. But in a lot of these cases, I mean, this affects people deeply spiritually. And again, 51% said it was a positive experience. So it still begs the question, what the hell's happening here? And, we're kind of barking at the idea of the big P phenomenon of what this actually is, because not just here in the West, it's experienced everywhere. And it has been for thousands of years. And so what are we dealing with? That's good that 51% said that there was a positive experience that came out of it or during the experience, but that 25% that said it was terrifying is a little bit shocking, a little bit bad. It kind of makes me sick to my stomach of what might actually be messing with us. But I don't know. As usual, look, we're taking your calls if you want to be part of the conversation. Love to hear your thoughts. I want to read this real quick. Back ass words Weird World on YouTube says, the more open you are to listen, the more likely you are to hear. And that's an interesting statement, because I think that may be very, very true. A few minutes left, James. What else you got regarding this or anything else?
Yeah, and I do agree with that. It is fascinating, that whole topic of sort of why do these things happen. It does seem like there are people that are sensitive from the beginning to these experiences, but then there's plenty of accounts of people saying, I've never believed in any of these things until I had this one experience. And they don't claim to be sensitive or any of those kinds of things. But yeah, and the positive and negative, I'm not surprised with that. I'm wondering, again, I think it's actually, in a way, it's a good sign that it wasn't the other way around, because I almost would have, with the way popular culture and movies and TV and everything has been running for a while now, I'm almost more surprised that it wasn't backwards, where it wasn't more negative than positive in that study. So I'm actually kind of glad to hear that it was, more positive than negative. And again, I don't ever discount the negative. I've had a few myself experiences, but also I do think, as I always say, there's a lot of push in fiction and the news as well for everything to be dark, everything to be negative. And so I'm glad that was not the case in this study. And I'm wondering if that other percentage that sort of didn't say positive or negative, if that was just neutral experiences and they didn't really know how to feel about it. Because I can imagine that, and I've had experiences with that as well. So yeah, this is a great topic in that study and everything in that article. And looking forward to hearing what people think about this. I do think, as you said earlier, I'm not discounting mental health issues either. There's definitely always that thing that can be going on, but so often there's accounts from people that they feel like they are perfectly fine overall and have no other issues, but they've had these one or two experiences that they can't explain.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not shocked at all. I think probably if people are being honest with themselves, they've experienced something, something that's really not easily explainable and not easily categorizable, all that stuff, all the Fox Mulder stuff where you can't neatly file it away. And so because you can't, you have to sort of write it off as, well, I must have been tripping, I must have been my mind playing tricks on myself. And that certainly plays. Like I said, that's absolutely part of this, but also it's everybody. I mean, everybody, probably to a high percentage. I would guess probably of the entire population of adults, let's say, kind of that had some years to live yet. You don't want to do, survey 5-year-olds or anything, but of adult people, I would guess it's probably upwards of 85%, somewhere in that degree of people that have experienced this type of stuff. Time will tell, and we'll find out as some more of the science is done. And you pointed out something very interesting too, that regarding this, I wonder how many people on this list had multiple experiences. And that becomes the next step or the next level of this, and trying to figure out what the hell's going on out there. Because I don't know, it's at one point you can say it's a coincidence, but then, when you're talking about thousands of people or an entire culture or going back thousands of years, multiple cultures the world over, then suddenly the coincidence bit starts to really kind of wear thin, and you scratch your head and wonder what the hell's really going on. Fire stuff, James. Appreciate you very much. As you know, just about out of time. Hang tight. We'll get back to you. You're welcome to stay, of course. And we're taking your calls. If you guys want to be part of this, just give us a call, 6939. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Like I said, it's a chat client. It's a voice client. It's completely free. Just pop on in here and say hi. Come meet James and myself and many of the other people that make this show go. But what the hell is going on with this? And does it surprise you that of this 5,000 person sample size, most of them, to a massive degree, actually had experiences, non-ordinary experiences? Yeah, that doesn't shock me. And what do you think it is? One more time, 702-857-6939. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. We got more from James. Nobody on the line if you guys want to jump in here. Be right back. Catch you on the other side of the break. Yeah.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
Doesn't wait for midnight. 2 in the afternoon and the light is thin. Glass in my hand and no one to let in. Something at my back that my eyes deny. I turn around slow and I watch the empty light. Nobody taught me how to hold this, so I hold it wrong. Nobody told me it was old as every mother's song. It doesn't wait for midnight. It doesn't need the dark. Wide awake and not alone. It knows me by the heart. Give it a name and the name decides if it's a blessing or a blade. Wide awake and not alone, and I don't know if I'm afraid. Old hag on the chest, a weight and a face. Cross the border and it wears a kind of grace. They built one in a lab with a half-second turn. Counted 4 in the room, watched the steady learn. The wall is thin, the wall is thin. Half a breath and it lets them in. Call it a god, call it a ghost, call it disease. The visitor stays, but the story is mine to keep. It doesn't wait for midnight. It doesn't need the dark. Wide awake and not alone. It knows me by the heart. Give it a name and the name decides if it's a blessing or a blade. Wide awake and not alone, and I don't know if I'm afraid. Standing where you cannot look.
Hey there, what's up, Puff? Nostra, Karen is here. Good evening, guys. I see you over there. What's up, Mike? Algorithm, Mike in Colorado. I'll be on the Algorithm show tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific, by the way, so we'll see you guys over there as well. Thanks for the support. Thanks for supporting Mike and hanging out. We'll be there. Sweets, what's up, Salty Squiggly? How you doing? Good evening, guys. Who did I miss? If I missed you, I'll circle back around and get you. YouTube's coming up. And your calls as well. What do you guys think? What is going on here? And I'll tell you some of the actual experiences they cataloged as part of this. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening right about now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, a new study of over 5,000 people found the non-ordinary experience, the sensed presence, the unseen watcher, the voice with no speaker, is far more common than the clinic ever admitted. And most people who have one are perfectly well. So why does the same encounter land as a blessing for one person and a wound for another? And that really becomes the crux of this because, look, like I said, some of this is cultural, and which is highly fascinating that you can have a very similar or identical almost experience and then end up seeing it two different ways. And so it does make you wonder what the hell is actually going on here. And so as part of this study, they have this massive list of all these things that they did, right? And like I said, they called it the inventory of non-ordinary experiences. And if you're into actual, scientific papers and kind of reading through the methodology of how they studied this, the questions they asked, and the subsets of people, and all this stuff, it's all there. It's all in here, and it's all, like I said, super fascinating. Here's one. Do you think science can explain how this experience happened? As some say yeah, some say no. And so, yeah, science can or will explain it. No, something more is involved. And that becomes really where you can narrow down how people experience these things and then what happens to them as part of it, right? And then, of course, you start to ask the questions. How did it affect you and all the rest of it? What was it? And they've categorized this into this inventory, which is super cool. Like I said, I haven't seen a ton of science into the woo. And, I wouldn't even say this is woo. This is probably more like sociology. This is probably more like I said, neuroscience in some capacity. So there's going to be something to this where maybe one day this will be solved entirely. But for the time being, I'm not so sure. It's wide and varied and all over the place. And I've got a list here of the some of the things that they asked on what they are. So I'll read some of those as we go. But welcome back. Nobody on the line. If you guys want to jump in here, what do you think is going on here? What is this Big P phenomenon? And does it surprise you at all that a huge percentage of a group of 5,000, over 5,000 people experience something that couldn't be explained? That's the thing to me. It doesn't surprise me because I'm Michael Strange. I have a show called Troubled Minds. I mean, no, it doesn't shock me. But what about you? Does that surprise you? Or because, of course, scientifically, you can't really say, everybody's kind of done this. And then until suddenly you start counting the beans and recognizing that kind of everybody's had, most people, a high percentage of people have had something like this that you can't really quantify. I don't know. I'll read from the list here some of the stuff that's happening as part of it, and what they were counting as these non-ordinary experiences. But welcome back, James. What do you got? If anything else to add, and if not, I got some stuff from the study here that I think is important to point out that may jog some people to kind of give us a call and give us an idea of something that they may have experienced. Let's do that too. Let's open it up to. What's an experience that you had that you couldn't quantify? Science couldn't explain it, and it's impacted your life somehow. That really becomes the question tonight because many have, and it's a high percentage. And clearly, there's going to be, and we've heard many actual encounters and experiences on this show before. So, love to hear. James, anything to add? Welcome back, and I've got some stuff from the study to read here. Highly fascinating.
Yeah, I do have a quick story. About a relative of mine, actually my older brother, who is not interested in any of these things, does not believe any of it is really anomalous, but did have an experience once. And I do wonder about the term experience and how all that works and what an experience is, because he had an experience that he didn't even know he was going to have it until after it was done. And I'll just tell that story real quick. After my grandfather passed years ago, my grandma still wanted to have summer gatherings, summer parties at the house for major holidays. And so after the first one of these, after my grandpa's passing, of course, she wanted to have all the bottles and cans picked up from just around that were there because of the party, because she couldn't do that herself so easily on her own. So she asked my brother to come and do that. And so he went around and got all the bottles and cans and took them to the store and came back to the house with the receipt and everything. he had exactly $22 in bottles and cans and returns. And you think, well, that's kind of odd. It was an even number like that. Gets weirder. Apparently, our grandpa used to intentionally count and only take that exact amount of returns, recyclable returns to the store and only get that much. We don't know why, as far as what the significance of the number was, but apparently that's what he always did. My brother had no idea. I think the only one that really knew was my grandma. And so he had an experience that he still can't explain.
That's pretty wild. When you talk about a coincidence, that's like scaling up and hitting you in the face. I mean, was it part of a larger pattern? Like, was it a countdown? Right? Like, I mean, there's some really, really, really weird threads that can kind of come out of that. And again, trying to be respectful there, not be too weird. It is a relative, and losing grandparents is never easy. But that in particular starts to make you wonder. Like, it makes your skin crawl a little bit. And like, what the hell's going on? It's not just that coincidence that you experience, but then suddenly it's patterns of coincidences. And that's why this starts to get super weird. I appreciate you sharing that. What else you got, my man?
Well, and just real quick, the question to me is, how did that happen? In other words, how exactly did there end up only being that amount there? You know, so did some bottles or cans vanish? Did some appear? Like, was it exactly, how did that exact amount end up being there when this was not planned and my brother didn't even know? So anyway, yeah, I think there's an experience can be a lot of things. And I think that was my point in sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's some of the things they did ask from it. Like I said, they call it the inventory of non-ordinary experiences. And like I said, it is pages and pages and pages deep of all this stuff. You know how scientific, the actual, what are they called? Questionnaires go. It's like one of the most watching paint dry sort of situations. They can make really amazing stuff seem incredibly boring because they have to go through the methodology, all the rest. I mean, I understand it, but okay. But here's some of the things that they actually were talking about within it, right? So the sensed presence of entities, some extraordinary force in the room, the presence of someone who has died, or made this list. Seeing a full vision, sort of the Ghostbusters full actual apparition. Seeing faces that aren't there, the kind that surface in the dark after you drift off, that sort of thing. The feeling of a second self inside your own body, like a doubling. And this psychic vampirism, the sense of being drained by a presence or person. And so this is the type of stuff. So it's not just simply, did you hear a noise? Did you feel a presence? It's layered and stacked. And that's just one little part here. And many of them, of course, the interesting part to me is that, one, you could experience this probably if you're predisposed, right? If you grew up believing that this stuff was real or whatever, right? And so you're kind of maybe more open to it, like was said in the chat earlier. But I think beyond that, you get these staunch science types that are like, nah, there's no way. And then somehow, some way, it still finds them. Like, it's still, even people that are not really receptive and open to these ideas, when you do a large sample size, it still sort of leaks into the scientific mind, which, who completely blocks all this and wouldn't believe you if you told them, but then it happens to them. And I would even put myself in that camp, like I've seen some weird stuff, had some weird things happen, and it's not, super notable. It's not something I could write a book on or whatever, but it's certainly as sort of the materialist mind, at least growing up, I think I've probably changed my mind about a few things in that regard. But you don't believe in any of it. You're like, come on, this is all nonsense. There's no such thing as a curse. Right? There's no such thing as ghosts, whatever. But then suddenly you start to experience something that you cannot explain, and it's leaking into that modern mind space of the materialist. So how do you measure all that and kind of quantify it? More stuff here. So the out of body experience they're asking about, watching yourself from outside of yourself, the near death experience. We've talked about that quite often on the show. The diminished self, where you sense your sense of being, where you shrink and sort of dissolve within yourself or even outside of yourself. Sleep paralysis, of course, we've talked about this when you're awake and then pinned somehow and it can't actually react, it can't speak, can't scream, it just kind of sit there frozen, which is super weird. Past life experiences. I mean, it sounds like a checklist, from Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd in like the first the first bit of that movie. You remember when they were doing the interviews or whatever? I think what's her name? Janine answered the phone. She's like, "Do you believe in past life regression, astral travel, whatever?" Was she talking to Winston? I don't know. And basically, he's like, "Hey, look, I'll believe in whatever you want if it's got a steady paycheck," which clearly he didn't, and which was a perfect example of that archetype of the materialist mind that's like, "Whatever, lady, just I'm here for a job, give me a job and pay me, and I'm in, right?" And then suddenly things turn and you start to see some things. Of course, that's fiction, but it is that archetype of the individual that's brought into the space, not believing anything, and starts to see some things that make you raise your eyebrows. But my point in reading some of the methodology of what they did and some of the questions they asked is for the reason that it wasn't simple. It was all over the place. And it was basically a wide category of non-ordinary, which is really what Troubled Minds has always been about, that idea of the unseen. That unseen realm sort of leaking over somehow, whether it's a dream, whether it's a waking dream, whether it's, you felt like you've been in contact with a deity somehow, or an angel or a demon or whatever, or some ancestral spirit like we always talk about. And all this is in there. It's all in the thing. And I got a few more to read too as part of it. But this is the huge group of things that they asked of these people in this study. And like I said, I do check it out. Because it is highly fascinating. I'm going to read a little bit more from the article in a sec here, because there's some really, really pertinent stuff in here that I brought up earlier that probably needs to be said better than I said it. Anything to add to that, James, with the out of bodies or the astral travels or the Ghostbuster stuff? I mean, there's so much to look at here. And, you and I talk about it and think about this stuff so much, and many of us here do, but you start to recognize how many weird and wonderful things are out there that people experience that really doesn't ever catch the light of day when it comes to modern discourse whatsoever. So, welcome to Troubled Minds in the world of the weird.
Yeah, and those categories that they have in there, there's always such a variety of details within each of those types of experiences. And I'll just give you an example. They mentioned out of body experiences where you watch yourself, you see your physical body. I've had out of body experiences over the years, but I have never had that. I have never seen myself laying in bed. It's always been, I fell asleep, I felt like I was out of the body, and I was somewhere else. So that's just one detail within that. So I'm really curious about now. I guess because of like what I do, I would love to have all the reports in that study from each individual person, because that'd just be fascinating to me. But obviously, it's a study, and they're not gonna. That'd be a good sized book, I imagine. But yeah, and the Ghostbusters thing was hilarious, because it was like you said, Janine was reading off all these things in a very almost like not interested voice, and it was Winston. He basically said that, yeah, I believe in anything as long as it pays, So. And then that comes back, and I forget if it was the first one or the second one, but that comes back because I think it might have been the first one. But anyway, he has to tell someone, like I think it's the mayor or something like that. Look, I know all this sounds crazy, but I've seen things you wouldn't believe. And that's pretty common. Also, I do think when it comes to scientists and everything, and that mind space, one thing I have heard over the years is people who have done research into these things have talked with scientists, but they've had experiences, but they would not share their names. They would not, it's not so much that not all of them don't believe in these things. It's part of the stigma. They can't say publicly that they do, because of all the repercussions it might have on their careers and their reputation, which is part of their career, and all those things as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point. And why like I said, these conversations have kind of been stuffed off into the dark of night, because you just can't talk about this. This is not water cooler talk. Shout out Derek the Night Stalker. Water coolest talk, he always says. And look, and that's the point. That's why we talk about this stuff in the way we do, and in the manner which we do. So out to you guys. The whole point of this is to have a conversation. Do you think that there is something to this? Because non-ordinary is a massive category. but it really harkens at what we talk about as part of that big P phenomenon, whatever that means. And it could mean one thing to you, it could mean a different thing to me. And also that really kind of looks at into the face of those theories like Keel had, or like Jacques Vallée had, sort of the trickster archetype of whatever this thing is, it presents to you one way, but then presents to me another way, which doesn't make it any less pertinent. It's still there. It's still actually relevant to what we're discussing and how we're feeling these things, but also and experiencing these things. But then it starts to look like a demon to you and an angel to me, or vice versa, or something to this effect, or an ancestral spirit, or something to that regard, right? So look, I don't know. That's why this entire thing is so strange to me, because one, like I said, it doesn't shock me that almost everybody's had some kind of experience they couldn't explain. The second part is how wide and varied a lot of these things are, because that ancestral spirit and the larger context of this is really a ton of stuff. It's a ton of stuff in one big bucket, and everybody's like, yeah, had that happen. And as James said here, let me read from the article here, because like I said, it's probably better to just get it straight. So the research team first interviewed and validated the inventory of non-ordinary experiences, which is what we're talking about now, and it is linked there. So there's a link at the very bottom. Check that out, and you can kind of see what the type of stuff they did. And this is straight from the article from Chrissy Newton. I always want to say Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Newton. Okay, so she says this straight from the article. So the research team first interviewed and validated the inventory of non-ordinary experiences. Then they developed a questionnaire designed to assess both the universal and cultural influences shaping participants' interpretations of these events. After refining the survey based on feedback from 160 Brazilian participants, well, that explains it. No, I'm just kidding. I love my Brazilian friends. Very nice people. The researchers administered the final 47 question questionnaire to 5,117 individuals representing the general population. Quote, previous research has often failed to differentiate the experience and how people make sense of such diverse and challenging experiences, Fisher explained, the scientist here. Our work stands out in the way we squarely focus on where and when these experiences happened and how people tried to make sense of them. He continues, by clearly separating the context, the experience, and the meaning-making processes, the patterns we observe challenge various assumptions that have guided previous theory, research, but also clinical practice, which, like I said, is super, super interesting, because you don't see a lot of this stuff. You don't see a lot of things happening here in terms of science of the woo, right? The non-ordinary experience. And here's the part again. So now strap in for this one. Among the findings, 20% of participants reported that their non-ordinary experience had a negative impact. Okay, 1 in 5, 20% had a negative actual impact, while 25% said it caused suffering or discomfort. So that's big now. You add those two together, and that's 45%. That's nearly half. So suddenly you start to cook that up and look at what the hell's going on. And the 51% reported their experience ultimately produced positive long-term effects. That, once again, is highly fascinating. What's going on? Because when you add those other two categories together, we get like 50-50 here. We're almost coin flip in good and bad experiences. Now that's the weird part. So, and why? And I think you can write a lot of that off to culture, right? Or, sort of mind space in a moment. If I got my dick in the dirt for whatever reason and I experience something, I think you're probably more apt and open to see something negative, because you're, kind of feeling negative, kind of even negative on yourself, against yourself in some way. But then beyond that, it's also impossible to reconcile, because how do you really, so then you have to subsection everything, like James is saying. So not only how many of these people had multiple experiences, what was your mood like when it happened, this type of stuff. So you start to have to kind of fracture it all down, and it becomes this massive spreadsheet of, is there any real data in here at all? I don't know. That becomes not just the question, but the larger context of where this science will eventually lead, with larger and larger data sets and all the rest of it. So anyway, so we're talking the big P phenomenon. And not just that, like I said, the title tonight is It Doesn't Wait for Midnight, Wide Awake and Not Alone. And you know what that means? That means it'll come up to you at any time, night or day, even if somebody's around. And, some of this has been put to infrasound, things like this. You sort of get a feeling of dread for no apparent reason, but don't really realize you're hearing it. That's the point. So some of this stuff is kind of like, yeah, maybe, Mike. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm the guy that drinks the maybe juice when it comes to all this stuff. But I do think there's too much of a correlation here when it comes to people that have experienced these things to just write it all off as, the mind likes to play tricks on us. Yeah, certainly. But you see the wide and varied batch of all the rest of this. I'll read a few more of these too. I see you, Jen. We'll go to you at the top of the hour here. Give you time if you got a ton of stuff here. Okay, so let's see. Also from the thing is what else? Okay, so extrasensory contact with another mind, the telepathy bucket, the sense of being guided or directed by something, deja vu. We've talked about this. The already seen. Lucid dreams. We talk about that often. Waking up inside the dream and then steering it. Or how about this? A place that feels alive or aware. A place that feels special or sacred in a way you can't argue with. And I think many of us has probably felt that in maybe, dare I suggest, like a museum, sort of around ancient artifacts, this type of thing. Maybe, right? An object that feels animate or imbued somehow. Intense devotion either toward an object or relic or even toward a person. And the numinous is raw emotion, meaning the inventory treats the overwhelming feeling itself as a non-ordinary experience. Positive awe, negative awe, joy, love, compassion, or fear, hopelessness, loss, pain, and all the rest of it that comes with these experiences. So look, as usual, no answers. More questions come out of this. And I think that as more data really kind of turns into the scientific aspect of this, the woo data, maybe we'll start to see some patterns that are irrefutable. And maybe they already are. I think that's the thing, right? Trying to keep one foot in the real world and one foot in the woo world is difficult because you want to believe hook, line, and sinker, whatever comes. But then also you got to recognize that there is static. There is a signal, but there's also static out there. And so what do we find and how do we find it and how do we discuss it? That's the whole point. And that's why we're here. Anything on any of that, James? More stuff that was part of that. The emotional aspect of it, the scared or not. And again, so now that we combine the data, the 25 and 20% is close to the 50, which is kind of coin flip here, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. So that's, it kind of tracks, right? It tracks when you start to think about these ideas because many people have said negative stuff, but then many people have had the ecstatic experience and beyond. So as usual, right? We're trying to quantify things that cannot be quantified. And so, grasping at straws, but what do you know about any of that?
Yeah, definitely more, again, half and half or equal amounts, relatively speaking, does make sense to me. Also, I do think, I think part of, now, the other thing to keep in mind here with this is part of the negative impacts may be due to cultural, factors and upbringings and all that, because I do think that when we have experiences that are startling to us and frightening, that can sort of make us think right away that, oh, then it's a negative experience. But then negative things don't always happen. When you get frightened, sometimes it's just you see something or you hear something and you're frightened, but then it's gone. And so I do think that those are factors in all this. So I wonder how much that would sort of skew the findings back down, like cut the negative side down a little bit if we were to sort of, as a species, learn how to be maybe more, just, I guess you would say, stoic at the start of an experience and see where it leads and understand, yes, we may be frightened or startled, but that doesn't mean it's automatically a negative or a positive experience.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another article here on bps.org.uk. And the headline here, real quick, and we'll talk about this when we come back. And we got Jen, the Arcane Observer, coming up in your calls as well. The headline is this: the voices heard by people with schizophrenia are friendlier in India and Africa than in the U.S. That's what I was citing earlier, which is incredibly strange because, this is suddenly it becomes a cultural thing. And, maybe the idea of culture, we make the joke in New York, hey, I'm walking here. And so, some people have like the New York love they just love being there and the experience and all the people. But some people go there and it just feels like the most negative thing ever. Just kind of like everybody's in your way and you're in everybody's way and all the rest of it. So look, I don't know. This is incredibly strange when you think about it, but also it does make some amount of sense because some people are just sort of city dwellers. Some people enjoy the urban sprawl. Some people hate it, and it feels like a nightmare space. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's impossible to really quantify when you're just kind of having a talk show and, you know, talking about wild ideas by dark of night. But the whole point is that somebody you know, and probably you, has experienced something like this because almost everybody has. And that is what's on my mind tonight. Love to hear you as part of the conversation. Give us a call, 702-857-6939. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. More coming up with James Salcido, the glue of the show, the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. All the rest of the great stuff he's adding to this. SalcidoParanormal.com, SALSIDO Paranormal.com. Be right back. More on the way. Love to hear your experiences. And what do you think is going on? And why is it so wide and varied and coin flippy when it comes to positive, negative, and what the hell's going on? This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. More from James. We got Jen on the line and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. See you in just one moment.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
Let's check the news. A mathematician at Anthropic has quietly shaken the foundations of a major branch of mathematics. Using the company's newly released AI model Claude Fable 5, a researcher named Levent identified a counterexample to a long-standing mathematical conjecture, a problem that has resisted mathematicians for over 87 years. The counterexample, simple enough to fit in a social media post, demonstrates the conjecture is false in 3 dimensions and above, though the original 2-dimensional version remains an open question. The announcement was made casually on X, yet sent ripples through the mathematical community that many are calling anything but casual. Turning now to a story that may make you look at your home router a little differently. Researchers at a leading German technology institute have demonstrated that ordinary Wi-Fi signals can identify individuals with nearly 100% accuracy, no cameras, no special sensors, and no connected device required. In tests involving 197 participants, the system used unencrypted radio waves bounced between routers and nearby devices to construct recognizable images of people within seconds. Critically, a person does not need to be carrying a phone or smartwatch for the system to work, it only requires that other Wi-Fi-enabled devices are active in the vicinity. Researchers warn this could effectively turn the wireless networks already blanketing homes, cafes, and public spaces into an invisible, nearly comprehensive surveillance infrastructure. And finally, physicists may have cracked a mystery that has stood for half a century. A major international research effort, using data from a narrow-tired particle collider at a U.S. national laboratory, has produced some of the strongest experimental evidence yet for what actually holds matter together at its most fundamental level. The findings, published in the journal Science, support the idea that a property tied to the stability of protons and the distinction between matter and antimatter is not carried by 3 core particles inside each proton as long assumed, but rather by a Y-shaped structure of massless connecting particles called a junction. First proposed in the 1970s, this junction idea has until now been nearly impossible to test, leaving one of physics' most basic questions frustratingly unresolved. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Indeed. What's up, guys? Over there on YouTube, Dragon Rose got first listening from rainy Rachel, Nevada tonight. Thank you for tuning in. What's up, James? Jen is here. We'll talk to Jen momentarily. What's up, MJ? How are you? Joey is here. Good evening, guys. Back ass words. Weird world. Yeah. Surreal surroundings. How you doing? That would be Karen, I believe, right? Good evening. The third eye. Sound commits. The third eye. We'll go with that. Too many threes in there. Screw me up. What's going on? Sach is here. What's happening, folks? Richard in Texas. How are you? Good evening. Yeah, tons of things in play. And I know it's weird, right? When you have so many things to consider and talk about, it can get... It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. What's up? Bioxy's here. Good evening. Says I was having hallucinations, but I'm better now. I'm seeing a psychiatrist. the upside down smiley, yeah, right? Just saying though, for real, it's like for real. If you're struggling, get medical help for sure, right? I'm just saying, right? You got to say all the things because people with the psychosis tend to sort of run from help. You know, it's a serious thing. I know you're joking, making light of it. I am too. Just yeah. What's up? Fred says here in Phoenix, it's good. What's up, Fred? Welcome back. Good to see you there. Hello. Good evening. Who'd I miss? If I missed anybody, you guys are the best. Karen, I see you there. Hello. Richard in Texas. Herschel says I also podcast all the time. Listen to the stories if you don't like to read them. Perfect. Yep. That's good. By the way, Herschel, we got a new radio station setup thing. So I'll get with all the guys doing the radio on the side because it's all automated now. Everything you put on your RSS feed will go straight to the radio station, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. And we'll powwow a little bit. So thanks for doing great work. Who'd I miss? Jen coming up next. I see you there. Good evening. Good evening. I missed you. Sorry about that. I'll circle back and say hi. What's up, Lily, the Robert, Lunging Meal, Joey, Sach's here, Matzel, Jen, Herschel, Chef Pete, Dragon Rose, Jacob, and Daryl. Let's go. Troubled Minds happening right about now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. All the places, all the things, yada, 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 yada. Go to troubledminds.org. You can find the radio station. There's a Discord link. There's the phone number. There's the Substack newsletter. There's all the places you can listen and all the amazing friends list. We always talk about all the amazing friends that make this show go. Please go help our friends. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. You'll see all these amazing names and amazing people. Please go follow them. Go spend a few minutes and every few days and just follow them all. Like Pokemons, just follow them all. Tonight we're talking this wild research. New research suggests that extraordinary experiences are more common and more meaningful than expected. And not just meaningful in the sense of, as James and I were talking about, the negative and the positive. There's some slice of this that's terrifying, that actually sticks with people or changes them. And so suddenly this starts to be like a psychic scar of sorts. And that's the part that really gets me when you talk about this, because for all the positive interactions you could have with sort of the big P phenomenon, whatever that is and however you define it, like I said, is wide and varied and all the things that kind of come in that bucket. But beyond that, it is very, very sticky in the sense of once something happens to you, you kind of carry that psychic scar for a long time. And what does that mean? And of course, how weird does it get and what are we dealing with? That's the question. Jen coming up in 1 sec. Anything to add, James? And I'll get Jen up here on the stage with us. Thanks for being patient, my man. Welcome back.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, I've definitely had a few experiences that will never go away in my mind. Yeah, they were not fun. So I totally get that. And I think it is all connected. At what it is, I don't know. I think there is one phenomenon in that we could call it unexplained or anomalous, but what it all is, I think there's probably many things within that, many different sources of it or beings in it. All these different things seems like are the case.
Yeah, well said. And what do you know about it? We're talking about it tonight. Again, I'm calling it, It Doesn't Wait for Midnight. Wide awake and not alone. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, thanks for being patient. Jen in Missouri, the Arcane Observer. What's going on? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you? And go right ahead.
Hey, James. How are you?
Okay, good to hear you again.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, so I think, well, if you look at the surface world you're living in every day, so just the typical day-to-day that everyone is going through, there's a sort of a filter over the experience that is a lie. Everything that, it's not necessarily, maybe it's not an intentional lie or anything like that, but like the entire environment, grocery stores and everything, it's a story we're telling ourselves. We've created this like flimsy reality. And it's to help shelter us because we're so afraid of facing the truth of our existence and what the world we live in actually looks like, including all of the ideas of the unknowns of existence. We're running from that. We create all of these things around us to make us feel like we have some kind of control. and that reality is not that, it's this. The world looks like this. It has order and rules and laws. But we know that that is just something that's not the truth. We've made that to try to make sense of the world. And then, so that's the beginning, is that this is a filter. Every day, stop signs, businesses, restaurants. We call it culture and community, but it's something that we're doing as like a coping mechanism. No other species does what we're doing because we've figured out a way to avoid living in reality. We figured out a way to create our own reality. That's the idea. And then along with it, there's these sciences and rituals and magic that help to keep it keep it in that shape, to give it the shape, the mold. The bowl is science and witchcraft. Like this, it's the old ancient ways of like how you can hold something like this together and carry it throughout time and make people remember it. They never forget it because that's how you grow past a single, generation or two, is by creating this culture. And that's what's carrying the human race. And then you consider that they used to call passion and any type of inspiration or an epiphany moment a demon. The idea that this is something that's not you. It's an inspiration, a muse that comes into your mind or your experience, and it comes out of reality. And it is a foreign entity that inspires you to then do something from within yourself in your mind. Typically, though, too, the mind cannot complete a cycle without sleep. So when people go to sleep, they are imagining and they are recording. It's like almost like a download of the previous day's events, of the experiences, and it all ties into this loop, and it's all tracked in basically like a biological chip, that's an indefinite cloud of information. Unmappable, nearly unmappable. I mean, I don't know if they've said that they've done it, but that's up for grabs. But don't underestimate either that not only these demon passions that are not a part of yourself and are not negative, but can be depending on how you interpret them or how they come through with you. So there's this whole radio sort of system involved. And then in the dream state, though, I don't think it's really important. I mean, just talking about the world itself and people encountering beings and things like that. Some beings might be nocturnal. So some of these types of entities you're encountering may be nocturnal beings. I mean, what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, all that is very good. One sec, James. I'll give my take, and it's all you. It is very smart. You're putting together that reality space that we share it's so manufactured. It is so phony in so many ways, and we sense it. Like this is part of what has really spawned this conversation from years and years and years ago in my mind. That started all this because you see it. I mean, if you're paying any amount of attention, you know that the stock market is cooked. You know that everything out there is fake, and that many of the rich people are actually criminals. And then you got to ask yourself, like, how much of this is really the fair reality we're supposed to believe in? When and I'm just talking like sort of basic economics when it comes to that. And there's enough to go around, the Orwellian aspect of 1984. There's, and Tupac, shout out Tupac's in the news for his murderer trial happening in Las Vegas this week, right down by where I work, matter of fact. But he said, Tupac famously said, we got money for the war, but no, wait, what does he say? Food for the war, but not for the poor. Okay. And that's exactly the point. Money for the war, not for the poor. Something like that. And so, I mean, we see it, we recognize it, we notice it, and we live in this false paradigm. And I think maybe that's part of what's happening as it's a psychological thing for ourselves to recognize it. And maybe it is causing some of these experiences that, I don't know, maybe a recognition of the cosmos or something that we live in. I don't know. I mean, certainly I'm just pointing out, very smart to point that out, because I think part of that is what we're dealing with here. Even though we're talking sort of the woo space, I think culture certainly sits squarely in the woo space. Sorry to go on so long. Go ahead, James. What else you got? And then we'll give it back to Jen.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, the further back you go in time, the closer people were to, obviously, to nature and to whatever else is out there, whatever we want to call the woo or the paranormal or supernatural. But now through the way things have just ended up with people in charge making them or not, I don't know. But with the way things are now, is the bottom line here, that is something that in general, officially, all these things, the anomalous things, paranormal, supernatural, ghosts, aliens, cryptids, or whatever, that's supposed to be in fiction, and that's it. And you see that. I mean, fiction everywhere. Some of the most popular stuff out there has been based on these things, but that's not supposed to be reality.
Right.
But obviously, if you go into it and you talk to people or look up experiences people have had in any degree, you're gonna find these things coming up. Like we always say, it just people have experiences all the time. They just get ignored, and or in the more sad cases, that those people get persecuted or ridiculed or all these things. And so, but all these experiences still happen. It doesn't, there's no amount of any of that that's going to stop. I don't think people from having anomalous experiences
No.
in the end. Yeah.
And imagine, so if you think about humanity at the very beginning, before societies formed, and well, maybe no, I mean, even go beyond that. When they began to try to expand out and they had to create systems because the group was so big, group of people were so massive, you had to create order. And that's where it began, with them shaping cities and beyond villages, where it becomes very complicated as it is today. But before all of that, there could have been the all of the other creatures of the planet are, and then you have humanity, and they are a creature of the planet along with these, like, no different in the spread. And some of those creatures that may have been highly intelligent beings, as they watched us along, I'm talking, like, say, a million years ago, and they were watching us, and they're occupying the same space, but they slowly started to kind of retreat back as they saw that we were going down some type of delusional state that they could not get behind. And then they went away from us, and we became isolated, where we only dealt with ourselves and each other, our own species, mostly not interacting besides unless we were killing another one, or keeping it as a pet, or just watching it, whatever, we do that. I just think there's a possibility that there was, at some point, these other species that were probably highly intelligent that we were interacting with in a coexistence, that retreated from us as they watched us make bad decisions. And basically we've now isolated ourselves onto an island, safe and secure and insane. Our society is out of its mind.
That's
We're like
a
a bunch of,
fact.
like, look at a barn cat versus a tame cat. If you take a tame cat and set it out into the world, it will die. And yet do you see how different we are from what we might have been? And how can you retain culture and also live at that extreme level? And most of our dysfunction is because we are not held to an extreme level that we were designed to function in.
Yeah, the cat, very well said. The cat thing's super interesting, and I've heard it said this way too, sort of in a street fight. Like, the one who's going to win, size aside, but is the one who doesn't give a crap. Like, the more
And
feral one.
nobility aside,
Exactly, all that. Like, not caring if you have to, like, rip your guts out to, like, win the fight, you'll do it. Where the other guy's not willing to, and so he loses. I mean, you'll sacrifice whatever it takes because you got that level of feral crazy in you. And those type of
that's in
people
every
are,
single person.
and those type of people are scary because some people live entirely like that. So, I mean, and I'm just saying, like, people can be scary, and that's the whole point of this. And just another analogy, I think it's fascinating to look at the same DNA, the same cat, basically, but one feral cat can whoop ass on a raccoon, and a regular cat get his ass whooped by a raccoon. You know what I mean? It's just so strange to me that it's kind of the.
I let my cat out the other day. I never let him out. He saw a possum. and like had no idea what it was, and just thought like went up to it like a friendly cat because of the lack of exposure, you know? And there was no trouble, no danger there, but it's interesting. We're constantly just looking at a new world. And I'm trying to say that the inspiration that we feel all the time may be a sentient being. That people used to think that in culture, and there might be something to that. Additionally, so those are daytime demons. And then in the nighttime, there might be something more nocturnal, and those may be the things that people encounter. They're no less real between the day and the night. And also, the physical experience you have day to day influences, well, maybe the other way around, but your subconscious mind and your sleep state speaks in symbology. And so you may see a lot of the symbolism of what's happening in the real world around you at night. It could because it's a mirror world, reflection of it's a shattered prism. Is the idea. But great show tonight, and I look forward to hearing from people who call in.
Amen. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for calling. Thank you for being patient to hop in here. And fire stuff as always. You're the best.
Great show, you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Jenna, Missouri, the Arcane Observer. Please go give her a follow on all the places. troubledminds.org/friends. Thank you, Sweets, for pinning her link tree in all the places. Scroll down just a little bit. It's alphabetical. Follow Jennifer. Click that right there above my head if you're watching the stream. And go follow her YouTube. Go hang out and go learn some of the things that Jen's doing over there as well. She's got new content coming out, and always a fire take. She's tuned in to the troubled mind space in a way, in a unique way, which is the whole point of this. Where we get together and talk about these ideas and figure what the hell's going on. And I think recognizing the basis of reality is skewed to start is a great start. And she laid it down very well as part of that. So please give her a follow in all the places. Also, she's there on the weekends with James as part of Salcedo Paranormal co-hosting over there. They're doing fine work. James, anything to add to what she said? There's more, of course, as part of this list and these experiences. Let me reframe real quick. So it doesn't wait for midnight. I'm calling this wide awake and not alone. And there's a study that was done, and it's new research suggests extraordinary experiences are more common and also more meaningful than expected. By Chrissy Newton. Again, please go follow all the places down below. Read the articles in full in their native context and all the rest. I'm just talking about them as inspiration. But I think this is, like I said, this doesn't surprise this group, I think this group is not shocked by this at all. This is sort of like, yeah, no crap, Mike. But also, why? And what's going on here? Because, look, we can all spook ourselves with some sort of weird happening that we, the thing dropped in the other room and it scared the hell out of me, right? It's not really a ghost. But there's also some things. Look, I've got some things that happened recently, and I'm not going to share them yet because it's still kind of too new. With a family member that passed, like I've got some stuff that's like, what the hell? It doesn't make sense at all. Like I said, just a little too raw. Ask me again in like 6 months, and I'll tell you the stories. But remind me, James. Okay, hold me to that because these are too weird. Like some of these things happened, and you're just like, what? Like how is that even possible? And then you have to try and figure it out, or move on and hope things don't like continue escalating or whatever. It's just so strange that everybody has experienced something, and that's part of this study. And that's the whole point, is that, like I said in the intro of this show, it's incredibly important. You're here for a reason. You're entertaining these ideas for a reason. And most likely, dare I suggest, that reason, or one of the main reasons, is because you've experienced something that cannot be explained. And that's the point. Thanks for being patient, James. Anything else on that? And I'll get back to the write-up and some of the study stuff here. It's wild. It's a wild world we live in. And of course, when you talk about wild kingdom, we're talking about wild paranormal kingdom. So let's get it. Welcome back.
Yeah, great call from Jen. I'm always glad to hear from her. It's funny because when she was talking about cats and, house cat or indoor cat versus outdoor cat, made me think of the one time that my cat, Logan, ever escaped. And she picked the wrong time to do it, because it was in the middle of January or February here in Michigan, and this was when she was a kitten. And she got outside, and the cold just literally stopped her in her tracks and made her sit down and just stare at like all the white stuff on the ground. And my friend of mine happened to be here, luckily, and was able to scoop her up and bring her back in. But I mean, she was not used to that because she had never been outside since I'd had her. She's never been outside on her own. So, just an example of that, different kind of animal in a different kind of environment. But also, I do get what you're talking about, with things happening that it's too soon or it's too fresh to talk about. I had one of my, funny enough, this is the second time now. This is reminding me of my grandpa. So I don't know if there's something to that or not, but maybe he's visiting me tonight somehow. But after he passed, I didn't know until years later, but a couple of family members did sense and see him after he passed, but they didn't feel up to telling anyone that until many years later, until like just a handful of years ago. And my grandpa passed many years ago now. So yeah, I understand what you're talking about, and I will do my best to remember, and in 6 months or so, and hopefully we can get back to that.
It'll
But
come
yeah,
up. I've made some notes. I appreciate that. I've made some notes. It'll come up again because there's a lot of these cycles that we talk about in some of these ideas. One was a mirror instance, and some other in a particular space. So, like I said, we'll get to that at some point. But I mean, look, like I said, if you didn't experience these things or haven't sort of at least taken this stuff seriously, like I said, why are you here? I mean, I'm here because I'm highly fascinated by it. Not just the psychological aspect of we fool ourselves a lot, and as Jen was saying very smartly there, that the reality we live in is phony. It's all phony, and you want to be like, oh well, look at the stock market; it's at an all-time high. Oh really? You think that's the case? Okay, wait till the rug pull happens and the second Great Depression goes, and all the rich people knew about it before everybody else did. Weird how that happens, right? That's so strange how that happens. Anyway, I digress on that conspiracy, but I mean, that's the point. There are movers and shakers that are whales in the economy that can move the economy and can crush all those small fish out there and not give a crap. They just protect their nut and take off, and that's it. Anyway, I digress there, but you get the point. It's phony. The reality we live in is by and large phony, and it's held together sort of with the metaphysical idea of duct tape. And we're supposed to just kind of continue on. And I think an interesting part of this too, which comes up in the bottom of the write-up, is that's the idea of that ontological shock of, let's say, disclosure of UFOs, is very specifically that we're supposed to believe in, we all, the joke is if UFOs are disclosed and there's aliens here on the planet with us and we can prove it and it's irrefutable, everybody will stop paying their taxes, right? I mean, that's kind of the joke, losing their religions and this type of thing. And, becoming, I don't know, like I wouldn't go feral or anything. I wouldn't be super scared. I'd be like, hey, well, let's see it, like, don't tell me, show me. But the ontological shock aspect is certainly when you strip down the man behind the curtain and find out what's really happening with reality, then certainly not just with the economic space and sort of, the phony stuff that kind of keeps the world together, but then beyond it, what about all this other stuff that doesn't get any play whatsoever other than, dark corners of the internet at night in, scary places like Las Vegas. So I don't know. I think it's incredibly important to think about and recognize what's happening here. But that ontological shock aspect, I know it flew around a lot recently and part of that disclosure aspect. But I'll also tell you what, you bet your ass that the videos they're releasing as part of the disclosure effort aren't going to cause ontological shock in anybody. Nobody. I know nobody that's like, I'm not going to work on Monday because they released those UFO files. Nobody said that. So you get my meaning. It's a wild world we live in, as I said, and part of that comes down to how we define these things and how we're expected to believe that society will be there for us tomorrow, right? Because if we don't have that faith, then why would you go to work on Monday? And that is the true ontological shock aspect. But like I said, I haven't seen anything close to that yet. So, yeah. Anything on that, James? Ready to just shut it down and quit paying taxes? Turn the whole world over?
Well, the other thing to me that's hilarious is something we bring up every so often, which is that if aliens do show up everywhere and, we're here, basically that kind of thing, and it seems to be working well with the governments of the world, and they're all happy and everything's fine. But they're all telling us, both the aliens and the governments are telling us to do certain things. Things have to be this way now because we all say so. And there's going to be a bunch of us and be like, wait, hang on. I don't think those are aliens. Come on now. What's going on here? Because that wouldn't surprise me if they tried to do that.
It's going to be us. It'll be you and me. We'll be like, stop it. Would you guys stop it? This is not it.
Yeah.
This is not disclosure. Would you people please stop it? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are not the aliens you were looking for, but in the whole reverse of the whole Jedi mind trick quote thing, Star Wars thing. These aren't the aliens you're looking for. But in our case, we're trying to tell people, what's happening, and in the movie, it's something different. So anyway,
yeah, amen. That's the whole point of this. And so tonight we're talking thank you, James. Thank you, Jen, for the great call there. So making sense of the extraordinary, an investigation of the content and prevalence of appraisals of non-ordinary experiences. And that's the point. That's one of the major themes of Troubled Minds going back forever, since we started. And that's the point. What is going on? What is this larger Big P phenomenon? And what have you experienced that makes you believe it's this or it's that? Seems like these type of surveys are good in the long term, but this is, I don't see a ton of science, quote, science actually trying to get to the bottom of this. So this is good. This is good to me. Maybe we should start our own scientific endeavors, but how can you really trust bots on the internet voting things? You see what I mean? More of the phony society we live in. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. We got one more segment coming up if you want to be part of the conversation. 702-857-6939. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Here with James Salcedo, of course, of Salcedo Paranormal. Be right back. More on the way. Do not go anywhere.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
You always pictured it at midnight. A cold room, a locked door. The hour the world goes thin. But it doesn't wait for midnight. It comes at 2 in the afternoon at the kitchen sink in flat and ordinary light. You are awake, you are alert, you are alone. And you are not alone. Almost everyone has met it once. The unseen watcher, the voice with no mouth, the weight that sits down on the chest. The difference was never the visitor. The difference was the name you were handed long before you were old enough to refuse it. So tonight we ask who chose that name, and what has been standing all this time, exactly where you cannot look.
Let's check the news. A study out of McGill University suggests that something as simple as sitting up straight may do more than spare your back. It could quietly shape your emotional state and sharpen your judgment. Researchers found that participants encouraged to sit upright reported greater feelings of pride and took more effective risks in a virtual balloon game compared to those who slouched. Critically, most participants had no idea their posture had been manipulated, ruling out the possibility they were simply playing along. The study's senior author noted the findings raise new questions about how workplace ergonomics might influence far more than physical comfort. Turning now to the animal kingdom, new brain imaging research out of the University of Vienna reveals that dogs may be reading our faces with far more sophistication than previously understood. Using brain scans on fully awake, untrained dogs, researchers found that different human expressions, happiness, fear, anger, and sadness, each triggered distinct patterns of brain activity. Smiling faces in particular activated a region of the brain previously linked to food rewards and familiar scents, suggesting that a happy human face carries genuine emotional meaning for dogs. The lead researcher described the findings as evidence that dogs do more than simply sort human expressions into good or bad categories. And finally, for anyone who has ever felt paralyzed scrolling through too many choices, science confirms the phenomenon extends well beyond the human experience. New research on a species of gray tree frog found that female frogs become significantly less effective at choosing a mate as the number of competing male calls increases. When females heard just 2 calls, they pursued a mate nearly all of the time. As that number climbed to 8, success rates dropped measurably, and the decline held even when researchers controlled for background noise levels. The lead author of the study compared this situation to the overwhelm of a dating app, where having too many options can make choosing none of them feel easier than choosing one. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That is KUAP Digital Broadcasting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. KUAPDB.com. Got some interesting additions coming soon to the radio station. If you're not listening to it, I would recommend it. All kinds of cool stuff happening. And of course, we're on 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we go deep into the phenomenon itself, the Big P phenomenon. Now, what does it mean? Now, this study was done where they looked into this and asked over 5,000 participants if they had experienced something anomalous. All manner of things, whether there was an entity staring at them from behind them, being touched sort of in a a hand brushing your back while you're doing the dishes, things like this. It was this wide and varied thing. Talked to, heard voices, and these people were all well. They were not unwell. They were well people, healthy, not been diagnosed as schizophrenic or anything else, and still somehow the vast majority of them had experienced something anomalous. So what's going on? And like I said, to me, this seems very obvious. It's one of those things, as Jen pointed out, that we live in this weird sort of Twilight Zone space where we're supposed to believe in the systems. And the systems themselves do not recognize or acknowledge this entire other unseen space, which, if you're paying attention, certainly has legs and is worthy of discussion. And that's the point to me. And that's why we talk about these ideas. And have you had an experience that changed your mind, that changed your life, that was terrifying, that was enlightening, that changed your soul for the better or worse or whatever? That becomes the entire question. And why, really the biggest question is part of this whole long arc of the conversation, the great conversation. Shout out Matsal. Matsal corrected me too on the Tupac quote. Let me find that. Thank you, Matsal. He said, money for the war, but not the poor, right? I think that's what he said, right? Yeah. So thank you for the correction there. But I mean, look, that's the point. Recognizing that Orwellian space. And that's why, look, and I've basically dropped the surveillance state conspiracy, because look, we covered this all years ago. Like we did 2 years or 3 years of like the surveillance state. So I'm not saying it's old hat or it's stopped. I'm saying that I'm not interested anymore. It becomes literally the backdrop of where we live and what we're dealing with. And if you don't recognize that at this point, well, you haven't been paying attention. So if you want me to do more of that type of conspiracy, fine. I'm way more interested these days in sort of that unseen conspiracy that gets pushed to the back of the conversation. For what reason? We got a little bit of time left, a final segment if you want to jump in here and be part of the conversation. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Thank you, James, for sitting in. Appreciate you very much. Anything to add to any of that? There's so much here regarding all of these experiences that people go through, including the aliens and that ontological shock, which I want to bring up too. So go ahead and remind me. I want to talk about Marco Rubio real quick, because it's important. It's not about politics at all, except it's not. So I'm not going to give you my opinion on the man other than he's a liar. I mean, sorry, I just did. But beyond that, he said some stuff recently that will make your head spin and will make your tinfoil tingle. Welcome back, James. What else you got, my man?
Yeah, no, glad to be here. And when I saw the write-up, I told Mike right away I want to sit in this one, because this is something that obviously is important to me. It's been part of what I've been looking into. I'm glad that they're there is at least this study out there on this, and I hope that that continues and more of these things happen, and going forward, because I do think, one of the things that it mentioned there was that question of, do you think science will ever prove? I forgot how it was phrased, but everything anomalous can be proved by science or not, and people are divided on it. To me, it doesn't matter so much either way, because science is one level or one part of reality. But it's fascinating to see the responses to that, and people's ways of thinking of and why they would answer in the way they do. Because on the one hand, I can see the answer of, yes, science will figure these things out. Excuse me. And because they'll always be looking into things and all that. But on the other hand, I can also see the idea of, well, no, it won't, because these things can't be easily tested and repeatedly in a laboratory. And that has been one of the biggest sort of criticisms of all the anomalous things for a long time now. But I think it's fascinating either way to move beyond that and see what we can test and figure out going forward.
Yeah, well said. And that's the point. Like, I think a lot of that sort of Ghostbusters level, Venkman and Ray and like all that stuff, it really gets pushed to the back. And I think, one, because there's a lot of stuff that's untestable. Sort of intuition is really kind of untestable. You need massive sample sizes. You know what I mean? It's difficult. And so in this case, like I said, 5,000 people, many different questions, different experiences, sort of the unordinary experience. There's a ton that comes through it. But also, you start to see when you kind of throw out a big net, you also bring in a lot of fish, okay, conceptually. And in this case, it's, people hear voices, people feel like they're being watched, people this, people that, all the things that we've talked about, seeing, a face in a place that it shouldn't be, a face in the microwave staring back at them, or in the washing machine, or, things like this. And that spooks people, that freaks them out to their core and changes them. And that becomes really so again, the new research here suggests extraordinary experiences are not just more common, they're more meaningful, meaning that sometimes they change your mind, they change your life, they change your heart and soul of what you believe about the world we live in. And that's the interesting part here, because when you put it all together, suddenly you're like, okay, like I said, it doesn't shock me. It probably doesn't shock any of you guys. We're even talking about this, but you start to see what happens. You throw a big net out there, get a ton of data, and I think just maybe it'll wake the world up of what we're actually looking at. And I don't think it's UFOs, guys. I just don't. I don't think it's that. I think it's part of the shiny object. And let me, because I said I invoked Marco Rubio. Let me shit on him properly. So not only is he a politician that lies a ton, because that's just what politicians do, they flip-flop based on the moment. They take the opportunity to change the subject. And recently, I'll pull it up. I commented it on X. If you guys follow me on X, thank you. If you do not, you might want to. I pop off some stuff on there once in a while. At Troubled Minds Are. Now, he said recently, they asked him, what conspiracy theory do you believe in, on some podcast that I've never heard of? But of course it was, fully sanctioned and probably a friend of theirs or something, like his cousin started a podcast or something. Not saying she's his cousin, but you get what I mean. So it was Marco Rubio, his wife, and some woman interviewing him in some official setting. What's your favorite conspiracy? He said, well, it's not a conspiracy, but the UFO UAP stuff actually has some legs to it. And so he said, number one, he said this the first time. The first thing he said was, I recognize that it's a fantastic pivot to get away from day-to-day politics. When people ask you a question you kind of don't want to answer, I'm paraphrasing poorly here, but he said that, you could kind of bring up this and say, well, why am I worried about that when we have these lights in the sky that we can't identify? Shouldn't we be more worried about that? Okay. And then he went on to say after the fact that he believes there's something to it and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But he basically told you straight up, I'm lying about this, and I only use this as a distraction when it's necessary. And yeah, I have to also say in my second space that I am interested in it and I think there's something to it, because if I don't say that, then my distraction space doesn't work at all. Okay, I'm adding the part he didn't say out loud. You get it? There's something going on here that is, like I said, the UFO community and the woo space is being had. And of course, as usual, it's politics as usual. And any shiny object they can get to get you not thinking about the Epstein files is, well, yeah, useful. Let's call it that. Anything on that, James? And we'll go to Eric. Thanks for being patient, Eric.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time, even not just on shows, but behind the scenes. Like, just the whole disclosure thing is just always, for a long time now, driven me crazy. Like, at first I was kind of interested in it, and then I started seeing patterns, and so yeah. And these politicians now that are getting into it in recent years, right away I figured, I thought this was just they were just using it, and they have done nothing to show otherwise to me so far. Just me personally, but I haven't seen anything from anyone in in that sphere that shows me that they're really interested in these things in a way that is genuine, outside of what they're doing.
No, because it's not. Because it's not. I mean, like the moment of clarity from a lying dog politician. By the way, so right now Marco Rubio is the U.S. Secretary of State. We do know that, but he's also, because Tulsi Gabbard resigned because her husband has cancer. Right? That's what we're told. That's the official story. I'm running with that. I'm not going with any conspiracy theories because somebody's sick and I don't want to do that. He's also the acting national security advisor, which is the toppest. That's like above the CIA. That runs the CIA. Really? And so he's saying like, oh, I think there's something to this, but it's a nice political distraction. And then everybody, and then the shocking part to me is he told you what he's doing. And then he added the fact after that, like, oh, also, by the way, I think there's something to it. Bro, you just discounted anything that you were about to say about it. That there's some, does anybody else see the world we live in? I'm telling you, I'm frustrated as hell with all these people because they have tons of stuff they're not going to tell us, and it pisses me off every single day. Good thing I have a microphone to talk about it. I'm telling you what. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Eric. Eric in Ohio. What's up? I'm not going to call him the official anything at Troubled Minds because he wants it to be derogatory, and I will not do that to him.
Yeah, I know you can only think of that.
You're the best. You're the best. Welcome to Troubled Minds. I'm glad we can have a laugh together. We're talking. So we're talking the woo tonight. It doesn't wait for midnight. Wide awake and not alone. In this incredible study where they're talking about almost everybody has experienced something extraordinary. What do you know about it? And take us to Eric Town. What you got, my man?
Well, I'm kind of walking in on this after getting off work in a strange state, so I'm not 100% compliant. But so if you have any questions, just direct me. But in terms of what I could figure out so far, a study indicating that people's had more strange experiences than one would suspect, or that one had put down on paper in a mathematical construct. And I don't know, man. I don't find that to be surprising or anything. I think there is so many things fueled by the desire to want to understand the things that are least understandable, whether that's cryptoids or astronomy or whatever it is. People are searching. We are always searching for the strangest things that we can find, and we tend to manifest those things if we don't find them outright in nature. So it's not surprising, man. I mean, I've talked to many, many, many people who have had various experiences. If you're putting this all under the umbrella of anything from paranormal experiences to UFO experiences or whatever, if this is a catch-all miscellaneous category, then you'd be probably hard-pressed to find somebody who has not had some type of an experience that sets their base attitude toward that whatever that thing is in some manner, or religion or cosmology or whatever.
Yeah, you're spot on, and that becomes the point. I think that's why you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head because it is something that at the end of the day, look, we've talked about this for years and years and years. There's not going to be a consensus, or at least a consensus that can be manipulated to bring the consensus to you. So if the clergy can manipulate to that sense, they will, and they do. And that is worldwide. I'm not picking on any religion. I'm picking on them all. But of course, that means podcasters. Look at Gal Sharpton. I've heard this recently. Candace Owens. Look at I don't want to go after people, but there's a lot of folks out there that are just saying some stuff, and you're like, bro, what? Like, but they've got these massive followings that are highly engaged and dedicated, and would go insane to take you down, for criticizing. It's just like we live in this space where belief is one thing, but then that cult of personality entirely is another thing, and that becomes the political idea of whatever. But the point is back to the space of the science here. The massive 5,000. So you're right. 5,000 people surveyed about high strangeness in general, whether it's aliens, whether it's some paranormal experience, whether it's an ancestral dream, or whether it's this, that, or the other thing, whatever. Yeah. Where they believed it was real and it was actually significant to them. That's the point. And a massive percentage of them said, yes, something like this has happened to me. And it was significant. It changed my life in some way. That's why this is super weird. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've had a total of maybe 3 experiences, 2 paranormal and 1 in a UFO sense. That's definitely set a baseline for me. I mean, if anything, it's brought me humility in the sense to think that there are possibilities beyond dogma, and dogma can raise its ugly head inside of science and inside of religion and then even inside of your daily life. So it's something that we're prone to a lot of times. But when you have those experiences that are outside of context, in the back of my mind at least, I understand that no matter how well of a grapple that I have on something, there's always going to be things that's slipping through that I don't understand, or that I will understand at some other point in time of reference. And I guess that's the way it is for everyone. They can have everything that the universe offers and contain it into some sort of a predictable situation is not easily done, and things bleed through and things slip through, and you can see it in phi and pi and math and things like that. You can see it in other manifestations, and I think also too that there are anomalies that occur inside of this construct that the brain, the senses detect and don't know what to do with the stimulus, because it's not a common type of stimulus. And then it's kind of up to the brain to decide how to interpret that otherworldly stimulus that it's detected. And the brain can come up with all manner of things, from feeling cold or warm to actually seeing some kind of a physical construct, depending upon how strong the stimulus is. And I think things like that bleed through all the time, and that actually our brains probably work toward excluding that as much as possible to get by in daily life, just to get by with your typical 24-hour day. And so it's something I think that you have to cultivate, right? If you're going to take any aspect of that, you have to cultivate it, and you have to woo it, and you have to baby it, and you have to set your journals out, and you have to embrace it and use it like a muscle that you would be exercising, or it's something that's just going to be background noise.
Yeah, which is the whole point of us even conceiving of this, because it is something you can't, the splinter in your mind, they say, something you can't quite put your finger on. And so that intuition space that is, really difficult to measure. And I think it's measurable. I just think that to this point, we don't have the data collection necessary. Actually, I take that back. We do. It's just not, it's used to sell us, sneakers, instead of sort of boiling down what this is. I think we do have the technology now. I mean, look at this. So 5,000 plus people surveyed over the course of the large bucket of abnormal experiences. Most of them experienced stuff. It was noteworthy and changed their life in some way. Some were positive experiences, coin flippy, some were negative, and some were terrifying. So I do wonder if you took like, bear the entire collective weight of like Facebook and X, Twitter X, and some of these social media companies with this massive amount of metadata, that I think we could probably come to some kind of scientific holy crap moment here. But notice they're more interested in selling us sneakers or changing our mind about who to vote for, because there's more direct money there. But there are larger questions that humanity is far more interested in. But you see how ambiguous it becomes because you need so much information to really kind of nail down anything. And that's the whole point. And that's why we live in the fringes of these conversations of the space of the larger society, because they don't. I'm not so sure this. Actually, I'll change my mind. I'm pretty sure that the powers that be don't want answers here, because the answers that come from the space we're talking about probably will spook the system, like Jen was talking about earlier, that this phony reality we live in, suddenly if there was clarity of what was actually happening, then they would slip. The priest class would slip. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's yeah, they don't want a change in any sense at all, or a realization of what your ability is to input into the system. And there's always been vectors of control throughout history. There's always been mechanisms for controlling the masses in various ways, in political ways, in economic ways, and in religious ways. And there's example after example and after example. And having if one thing will ruin the singularity, how we talked a show or two ago about the singularity, is the idea that everything is connected in terms of there's no more stumbling upon ideas or stumbling upon science. Now everything impacts everything, because you have artificial intelligence is able to connect these things together rapidly, where normally these sciences don't connect, right? And if anything will mess up the good parts of the singularity, it will be people that want to sell you things, or that want to bend the power in some way that will amount to amassing money or power, as opposed to just amassing knowledge. The singularity is not a bad thing. It's in definition a good thing. It means that we are on the precipice of being able to do amazing thing with Yamakusha factors and epigenetics and deoxyribonucleic acid and longevity, and there's human trials going on, right? These are all amazing things. But if there's one thing that will ruin it, it will be people, and people in power, people in the government, people that have vectors that connect to your daily life and how you live it. And it sucks, man, because transhumanism is a natural progression. Whatever the simulation was meant to design, consider that 98% of the fossil record is gone. Like, all the things that's been tried to get to this point have already went extinct, and now there's like a 1, 2, 3% of the species on Earth that's left, compared to what has developed over the millennia, right? And now we are developing artificial intelligence, and now we can even see the beginnings of transhumanism with things like Cortical Labs out of Australia with their CL1 computer. So whatever the simulation is fit to design, we are still heading toward that, because we are still developing these constructs and an understanding of how to pull this together. So we're not near the end or anything, but absolutely we are at that nexus point where either there is going to be a singularity or a hard takeoff, or there's going to be some ruin and devastation due to the biological greed produced by serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin,
Yeah, and the a-holes that don't want to let it go, not recognizing that they can still have it. It's just that they don't have the power to sway what happens to you and me, which is really what they wanted all along. Yeah. That was their serotonin dopamine receptor aspect. They didn't necessarily care about a golden toilet. They cared more about being able to swing the economy in certain ways to affect as many people as possible, no matter what they did, positive or negative, et cetera, so on. And it's it's frustrating. And I got so much to say about it, but I don't want to lecture anybody, and I don't want to get us way off topic, but yeah, I mean, it's not a good space. It's not a good space we live in when we're looking at this type of thing and expecting something different, and it just doesn't ever happen. I mean, that is the bottleneck. The bottleneck of the singularity for better is these bastards that are still in power that will not relinquish it. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I personally very often wreck myself over things that I could do or have, and I just will not embrace it. And it's dumb. And it's because I'm stupid, because I definitely could and should, and it would profit me, but it's a difficult thing to adopt. And it's not my fault that I am the way I am. It's not, I didn't choose to be this way and then adopt a certain particular life because of that. But when money is waved in front of you, it is difficult not to do that. And it's such a farce, because what you're going to be moving up to is something that just sounds like you're making it up or something. You know, it's like, it's dumb that the position exists and that somebody could fulfill it. But nevertheless, it's there and they want it and they're willing to offer money for it. So it takes solstice and destroys that, because it's hard not to join into the fray.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have the chops to be famous and probably rich, but I would have to completely sell my soul to do it, and I'm just not interested. Like,
yep.
I want to be able to sleep at night. I want to be able to do some good for the world. I want to talk about things that are off the beaten path, not the political space. I want to recognize that there's so much more to this reality than just the garbage they're trying to feed us through the mass media. And so I will live and die in obscurity, and I don't care. Some money would be nice, but
yeah, you don't want to sell your soul.
No, hell no, not going to do it. And look, I'll entertain some ideas, but I'm not going to full throated be like, yeah, go buy the bitcoins or the board coins or whatever kind of derivative coin is out there. If you ever see me shilling some kind of coin, I've been had. Somebody got me, or I have a gun to my head, or by the way, maybe I'm a clone and I'm Michael Strange is somewhere else on Alpha Centauri or something. I mean, just look, there's so much of that, and it's so easy to do, because all you got to do is lie, cheat, and steal to get there. You got to follow the narratives, and you got to like full throated get behind them, and then, but also recognize too, as part of that, you're disposable. Like eventually, when you step out of line, the UFO space or the political space or anywhere else, you're disposable. The second you step 1 inch out of line, they just cast you aside, and then it just snap in whoever's next. Like, next up, Mike's gone. He said something we don't like. Next thing coming up. So I mean, I don't know. This is all so stupid, and it's I don't know. Just as usual, right? Be true to yourself, whatever that means to you, because of course it's going to be complicated. It's going to be different. It's going to be difficult. But recognize still, as I always say, as part of these conversations, look, we don't all agree, but I think for sure, probably all of us here are facing the same direction, due north, chaotic good, right? Like something like that, right? Like somewhere in that space. It's not
eventually good.
Yeah. I mean, we'll eventually kind of get there, but this isn't about
good, eventually good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, chaotic good. I like to think of myself as chaotic good, sort of the whimsical trickster that really means well, but also, you do too much of that, and then, nobody takes you seriously. But also, by the way, I've got an alien logo behind me that's massive. So I gave up taking me seriously a long time ago. Anyway, what else you got, brother?
You can only be irreverent when you're disposable. So, I mean, you can only stand for something when the masses don't have something that they actually stand for. When it breaks into tribalism and cults, and that's what you're standing for, as opposed to a belief, then you can only be irreverent against what's happening when you're disposable to the idea that you would join a tribe. And me and you both know you will never join a tribe. You're only going to be what you are, and that's it. You ring one particular frequency, and the people that see that frequency and have it as their own are drawn to that particular frequency, and that's why we are here. And if you were to do anything else, it would be a subharmonic that would probably be disharmonious. However, I might sell out for a time. Just setting that out there. I'm just saying I might.
I appreciate that. How much?
Three figures.
How much is the offer? Like, oh, wait. We're talking three figures. We're talking three figures. Like, whoa, like 150?
Yes.
Oh crap! You had me at three figures. 176, 199.
For what I'm making now. But the solstice is going to be gone, dude. Like the ability to not do anything except think purely in the moment of not doing anything is going to be gone. It really would be selling my soul to a company. I mean, literally anything I would develop would be theirs by contract.
Yeah. It's not good. That's not a contract you sign. You instead go develop that shit and sell it yourself. It's not good. That's not good. Shout out Derek the Nice Talker too.
136,000 a year. Did you hear that? Did I mention that?
Oh no, you said three figures. You didn't say six figures.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, I see. We're upping the price. Upping the price. Shout out Derek the Nice Talker. He said this because we were chatting one time, him and James and I, and we're just kind of just chopping it up a little bit on Discord. And I was like, I just got home and I was wiped. I was so exhausted. I couldn't do it. And this is, and again, my apologies for being so flaky, guys. Like I said, it has been a really bad year for me. But I've still been here sometimes. So thank you for understanding. Quantifying what a terrible year it's been for me is not, I'm not a victim and I'm not going to cry and like make the case, but human stuff happens and it's not always good. And so it's been a bad year for me. But beyond that, Derek was saying that it sucks to come home after you've given your best energy to somebody else. And then you want to give all your best to the things you're interested in the most, and you can't because it's already gone. You've spent it. And very, very wise. Very wise. What else you got, my man?
That's all I got.
If that's all you got, hey, that's good enough.
You and James know I love you guys. You guys know that, and that's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely, and you were the best. By the way, Daryl in the chat said we were joking when you showed up. I was going to call you the official derogatory anything of Troubled Minds. She said, "How about the official genius of Troubled Minds?" So there you go. There you go. Shout out, Daryl.
Oh, thank you, Daryl.
There you go. You got more than one fan. Certainly, me and James among them, and Daryl and everybody else. Thank you for enjoying Eric, and thank you, Eric, for being here with us. Anything for him, James, before we close this up?
Yeah, always great to hear from you, Eric, and same goes for you. And yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It's just I do think that you have to go with what feels right, and that's what I always try to do, and that's all we can do. So go from there.
Amen. 100%. You know what to do. Go give Derek a follow in all the places. You working on anything new that people need to know about, or we waiting for the big release?
Oh no, man! I've just been studying up on mounds and working with Obsidian for a database for Fable.
Sick.
Other than that, not much.
Looking forward to that. Can you share it, please, when you get it? Looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, Obsidian was an Absinthe 6 from Native Instruments, which is where I first seen it. But you can also use it with Claude as a second brain for data analysis.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. When you get
go look it up, Obsidian.
Oh, I know. Oh, no, I know. I mean, what you come up with as a database. I spent my summers in Northern California, right on the Oregon border, hunting Obsidian arrowheads from the Modoc tribe up there. So I'm familiar with Obsidian. I got some. I got a collection.
Okay, and you're familiar with Gary Gygax, right?
Of course.
So his Magnus Opus, the game he considered to be the Cadillac of role-playing games, was Dangerous Journeys Mythos. And it's like the one thing I'm an expert on that I've ran at GaryCon that no one else has, that my first published historical academic paper was published based on that game and the history of it. And so what I'm doing is I'm using Obsidian to make a database on Dangerous Journeys, because all of the editors that worked on that game, when the legal situation took it off of the market, they gave me all of the unpublished material that they had, and basically shared letters between them and Gary, and are like friends of mine to this day and stuff. We still talk and stuff. So, having all of this unpublished material plus what is there, and the ability to talk to these people, there's just such a rich environment for being able to write papers and stuff. So I'm just creating the database to have access to information easily when I'm citing stuff in Chicago or MLA, depending on however I'm writing the paper.
Gotcha. I see. Okay. So we were talking about different obsidians. It's not the actual volcanics obsidian. We're talking about Gary Gygax.
No.
Okay. So
context obsidian is an application. It's an application. You can just Google it, right? It's an application, and it's like a graphic, and it's basically a bunch of circles connected together. So when you look at it, it's like a web. So in Absinthe 6, which is a synthesizer, a VST, it was being used to show the relationship between sounds. So they had a taxonomy that was like warm, bright, transient, sustained, or whatever the sound type was. And so you could see them graphically grouped together. And so it's something that organizes and aggregates data in a system where one formula connects to a lot of other formulas. Like if you change something in this formula, it's going to change 4 or 5 things downstream. It's a kind of a database that allows for that connection to be obvious in a graphical sense. And you can connect it with Claude, which is, of course, an artificial intelligence or a neural net or whatever, and you can go back and forth with the database and stuff. So and because there's so much that was written and not actually published, like just Word files upon Word files and Excel files and calculations and formulas and stuff that they just gave up on when they settled out of court, that it actually really needs to be aggregated. And there's even like information inside, like the progression of the worlds that Gary Gygax built from Orth, which is also known as Greyhawk, to Yarth, which appeared in a few different settings, that it went into the Epic of Earth, which was what was the Milu for the Dangerous Journey setting. So there's a lot to be extracted in a meta sense beyond even the information that's contained within the system, which is a multi-genre system as it is. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm currently doing. That's what it was that I was showing my friend, that he was showing the company that he works for, that ended up wants me to work for them for doing that sort of thing. And it's just like, I was experiencing it through writing music for since Christmas, like since right before Christmas, I think is when I started using Obsidian. And only recently it's been connected with Claude and the ability for it to aggregate markdown files. So it was just a happy synergy.
Synergy.md. You're the best, brother. Appreciate you staying up late with us. Thanks for popping in here, and thanks for educating me on some things I didn't know, actually. You're the best. Always a pleasure. Have a fantastic night. You know him, you love him. Eric in Ohio, the official genius of Troubled Minds. Shout out Daryl in New York. James, I know I gave you one chance and a second chance, and I'm playing some music, and we're getting out of here.
Well, this is all fascinating to me and a great call from Eric, because one of the things that I've come to realize in recent years, and at first it really annoyed me, and now it doesn't, is that even with all these scientific studies and everything, there will be no amount of proof or evidence will ever convince everyone that anomalous things are real. And I'm okay with that now, as long as we can all be respectful and kind to each other for those that have had experiences, and not dismiss everyone. So that's sort of my biggest focus now going forward.
Amen. And very well said, everybody. Thank you for the great calls tonight. Thank you for the great ideas. James, Salcedo, not just a dear friend, of course, the glue of the show, the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds. He also runs a podcast that look, I'm not exaggerating. I think it really is the largest paranormal archive on the entire internet. Have you followed him? Have you checked out his books he's written? I think you should. SalsidoParanormal.com, SALSIDO Paranormal.com. And hey, look, we're blessed to have smart friends. That's what this has always been about. It's about troubled minds, plural. Not just me. Hey, I'm not discounting myself. I'm amazing too, guys. I'm amazing too. My ego's fine. But recognize all these incredible folks that make this show go. There's so many things happening here that are, when you look at them from different angles, it kind of makes your head spin. And that's the point. If you want to help us, help our friends. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. Look, there's so many people there that have helped over the years in different ways. And look, it's an in list. It's not an out list. If you belong on that list, just send me a message. Hit me up on email, of course, or Discord or whatever. X, hit me on X at Troubled Minds R. Don't forget the R for radio at Troubled Minds R. Tell me, hey, Mike, I'm helping with the show. Add me to the list. Okay, cool. That's it. Boost us on social media, spread the word on Reddit or whatever, wherever. Like every little bit helps, and I appreciate it very much. So if you belong on that list, just contact me. We'll get you on that list. Other than that, look, spread. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening, but we're not going to tell you who to vote for. I couldn't recommend anybody to vote for at this point. By the way, I'm over it. I'm so over it. I think it's all bad choices and the old race to the bottom, right? This guy's bad, and that guy's bad, and the other guy's bad, and the other guy's bad, and they're just worse and worse. They're one-upping each other to be worse and worse. There's my political take. That's what I believe these days. I'm just so sick of all of it. Like, doesn't anybody have any common sense anywhere in the Beltway in DC? Anyway, I digress. We're not going to tell you to vote for. This is not a political talk show. This is not a way to look at the world in their manners. This is a way to look at the world in the ways they don't want to talk about, in the ways that are happening. Look, these actual things are happening to people, and nobody wants to talk about it. I'm your Huckleberry. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's consider what's going on. If you want to help us directly, troubledfans.com. Go buy a hat or a shirt or something. Those prices are like pre-pandemic or something too, so they're super cheap. If you buy like a shirt, I get like $4.60. I need to raise the prices. So before I raise the prices, troubledfans.com. Go check it out. Buy a hat, buy a shirt. I appreciate it very much. That's it. As we finish, look, there's a lot going on, and we'll talk about it tomorrow night. So I will be on the Algorithm show tomorrow with Mike in Colorado. He said if you want to do a dual stream, that's cool. I'm not going to do that. Let's all go over to Algo's stream. If you haven't followed Algorithm, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down just a little bit. Click Algorithm. He's right there on the top. Oops, I got to get this thing out of the way. And go follow him there. And we'll be on his Rumble and his. I don't think he's on YouTube anymore, but go check that out. And it'll be me and him, just a night with Michael Strange. He's calling in. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, and he's going to be interviewing me. And I don't know what's coming. Maybe it's an attack. Maybe Mike's going to come get me. Maybe he's not. We're going to just talk about stuff, and that's what this is all about. We need to talk to each other and consider what we know and what we don't know. And so that's it. So we'll see you tomorrow night. Please go follow Algorithm if you have not. troubledminds.org/friends. Algorithm right there on top. Go give him a follow. And that's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific, same time as Troubled Minds usually is. We'll start over there with Algo, and we'll be talking all kinds of wild stuff. I don't even know. I'm in the dark. I don't know what we're going to talk about. So maybe he's got a big list of questions for me or something. So, or not. Maybe we're going to sip beer and chill. You find out along with me. Appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for hanging out. As we finish, this one goes out to James. Thanks for just being so steady, so locked in, so understanding of my disaster space sometimes of not showing up. And each and every one of you too, but this one's definitely for James. You're the glue of the show, the glue of my heart, the glue of this space, and just keep doing, man. Just keep doing you, because you inspire the hell out of me. I hope I do my part for you. James, for you, sir. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.